Most seniors operate under the comfortable assumption that what they choose to eat directly before bed carries very little clinical consequence. But after 60, the quiet hours between your evening dinner and the next morning's breakfast quietly transform into the single longest fasting period of your entire day. And what happens inside your metabolic framework during those dark hours can profoundly affect your blood sugar stability, your deep sleep quality, your overnight muscle preservation, and your body's cellular recovery far more than most people realize. This is precisely why one simple, unpretentious pantry staple has attracted an immense amount of scientific and public attention in recent years: peanut butter. But before you blindly grab a spoon and head to the kitchen tonight, there are 7 critical physiological facts that every older adult must understand. The question here is absolutely not whether peanut butter is a healthy food in a general sense. The question is whether its specific nutrient architecture can actively support the critical systems that natural aging affects the most. As we cross 60, your blood sugar naturally becomes less stable. Age-related muscle loss dramatically accelerates. Your sleep architecture becomes lighter, and your systemic recovery windows slow down. Today, we are conducting a strict clinical breakdown into the real science of this nighttime routine. And I must warn you, the final 2 facts we cover today may completely shatter the way you look at a simple jar of peanut butter. I'm Dr. Jonathan Reid. Let's look directly at the clinical reality. Number 7. Peanut butter may help reduce overnight blood sugar swings. We begin our analysis with a profound metabolic reality that completely challenges how we view nighttime nutrition: the potential for a strategic bedtime snack to actively stabilize your vascular system while you sleep. To many seniors, the entire concept of eating right before bed sounds completely counterintuitive. You have likely been told for decades that closing the kitchen doors after dinner is the gold standard for health. From your perspective, avoiding nighttime calories is a sign of great dietary discipline. From a clinical perspective, however, entering a long fasting window with an empty tank can force an older metabolism into a chaotic, hidden roller coaster of overnight awakenings. The underlying physiological mechanism comes down to how your aging liver and pancreas manage glucose when your body is at rest. During a prolonged fast, your blood sugar can naturally begin to dip. In an older biological framework, a sudden drop in glucose triggers an immediate emergency survival response from your adrenal glands, causing them to flood your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to force your liver to release stored sugar. This internal chemical spike doesn't just disrupt your metabolic rhythm, it actively jolts your brain out of deep restorative sleep, leaving you wide awake at 3 in the morning. Sometimes the problem isn't what happens while you are asleep. It is what your blood sugar is doing while you are asleep. When you consume a modest amount of high-quality peanut butter before bed, its natural architecture of healthy fats and dense protein acts as a biological brake on your digestion. It slows down glucose release, ensuring a steady delivery of energy into your bloodstream. This prevents that critical midnight crash, keeping your survival hormones quiet and your sleep cycles uninterrupted. Number 6. Peanut butter contains nutrients involved in sleep chemistry. We move next to a fascinating biochemical fact that turns our attention directly to the brain: the reality that peanut butter contains natural, structural raw materials that interact with your overnight sleep chemistry. Many older adults operate under the belief that sleep is a passive switch that simply triggers the moment your head hits a soft pillow. From your perspective, winding down at night is purely an act of mental willpower and physical relaxation. From a clinical perspective, however, your brain is a highly complex chemical factory that must first physically build the specific hormones required to regulate and sustain deep sleep. To understand how this manifests in daily life, consider the case of a patient of mine named Evelyn, a 64-year-old retired accountant who had been struggling with frustratingly fragmented sleep for nearly a year. Evelyn was physically exhausted, but found herself tossing and turning for hours every night. She had tried every warm beverage and relaxation app available, but nothing worked, because her underlying neural pathways were missing the basic building blocks they needed to function. When we adjusted her nighttime routine to include a targeted, modest serving of natural peanut butter, her sleep architecture stabilized significantly within 3 weeks. The underlying mechanism centers on an amino acid called tryptophan, which peanuts naturally possess in high densities. Tryptophan serves as the foundational chemical precursor your body requires to synthesize serotonin, which is then converted directly into melatonin, the vital hormone that dictates your natural sleep-wake cycles. The body simply cannot create sleep hormones out of nothing. By introducing this clean nutrient matrix before bed, Evelyn was providing her brain with a steady supply of the exact raw materials needed to facilitate natural rest. Number 5. Peanut butter may help control overnight hunger. We turn our attention next to a very common and disruptive nocturnal habit that many older adults simply accept as an inevitable consequence of aging: dealing with nagging, persistent overnight hunger. When you find yourself waking up in the dead of night with a hollow, growling stomach, it is incredibly easy to assume your body is just acting up, or that your metabolism is misfiring. From your perspective, crawling out of bed to forage for a midnight snack is a harmless response to a natural physical signal. From a clinical perspective, however, this pattern is often a clear indicator that your evening meal failed to provide the lasting satiety required to carry your system through the night. The underlying physiological reason comes down to the stark difference in how your digestive tract processes various food groups. When your dinner relies heavily on refined carbohydrates or lean proteins alone, your body burns through that fuel incredibly fast, leading to a rapid drop in stomach volume and a subsequent spike in ghrelin, the primary hormone that signals hunger to your brain. When you consume a modest serving of peanut butter before heading to bed, you are introducing a dense matrix of plant protein and complex, healthy fats. These specific nutrients digest at a significantly slower rate than carbohydrates, creating a sustained physical fullness. The clinical goal here is absolutely not about forcing yourself to eat more total food throughout the day. It is about strategically selecting nutrients that allow you to stay satisfied longer. By utilizing this slow-burning fuel, you quiet those disruptive midnight hunger signals, protect your sleep cycles, and keep your body resting peacefully until morning. Number 4. Peanut butter provides magnesium. Many seniors lack. We move next to a widespread nutritional deficiency that quietly undermines the physical health of millions of seniors, simply because they have been conditioned to look for answers in all the wrong places, failing to realize that peanut butter is a dense, natural source of magnesium. When you experience frustrating overnight muscle cramps, tight calves, or a general sense of physical restlessness in bed, your immediate instinct is likely to view these issues as a standard part of growing older. From your perspective, the only logical solution is to head to the pharmacy to buy another bottle of expensive synthetic supplements. From a clinical perspective, however, your body always prefers to process vital minerals through the complex matrix of whole foods rather than isolated chemical pills. To understand the profound impact of this distinction, consider the case of a patient of mine named George, a 66-year-old retired civil engineer. George came to my clinic complaining of persistent, painful knots in his legs that woke him up multiple times a week. He was already taking a handful of daily prescriptions and was highly reluctant to add another heavy mineral supplement to his morning routine. Instead of writing a prescription, I had George introduce a single, controlled tablespoon of high-quality peanut butter into his evening routine. Within less than a month, the frequency of his overnight muscle spasms plummeted, and he reported feeling significantly more refreshed upon waking. The underlying biological reality is that magnesium is a critical cofactor in over 300 biochemical reactions inside your body, playing an indispensable role in cellular energy production, nerve signaling, and deep muscle relaxation. Peanuts are naturally packed with this vital mineral. When you consume it before bed, you allow the magnesium to work in tandem with the natural fats to absorb efficiently into your system, right when your body enters its peak repair cycle. Sometimes, nutrition works best when it comes directly from real food, rather than another plastic bottle on your shelf. By utilizing this simple pantry staple, George corrected a hidden dietary gap, stabilized his nervous system, and reclaimed his sleep without overloading his daily pill organizer. Number 3. Peanut butter may support overnight muscle preservation. We turn our focus next to a silent, structural vulnerability that threatens your physical independence every single day, regardless of how active you try to remain. The vital role of nighttime nutrition in supporting overnight muscle preservation. Many older adults operate under the comfortable belief that severe muscle loss is something that only happens to individuals who are completely sedentary or bedridden. From your perspective, as long as you walk regularly or tend to your garden, your physical strength is perfectly secure. From a clinical perspective, however, your body continuously breaks down muscle tissue as it ages through a process known as sarcopenia, and the overnight hours represent your moments of highest risk. The underlying physiological threat centers on the fact that your bedtime fasting window frequently stretches between 10 to 12 hours, or even longer. When your body enters this prolonged nutrient deficit, it doesn't simply pause its operations. It actively searches for alternative sources of amino acids to maintain vital internal organs, often dismantling your hard-earned skeletal muscle to get them. The body doesn't spend the night doing nothing. Much of its critical cellular repair and structural reconstruction work happens while you are fast asleep. By consuming a controlled serving of peanut butter before bed, you introduce a rich source of dense plant protein right at the edge of this fasting window. This protein is broken down into a steady stream of essential building blocks that circulate through your bloodstream while you rest. This simple dietary habit effectively shifts your metabolism out of a destructive, muscle-wasting state and flips the switch into active, overnight recovery. Protecting your physical frame after 60 requires constant, proactive maintenance, and supplying these raw materials ensures your body builds itself up instead of tearing itself down. Number 2. Not all peanut butter is the same. We advance now to a critical structural pivot point in this nutritional strategy that can easily mean the difference between supporting your longevity or actively damaging your metabolic health. Understanding that not all peanut butter is the same. Many older adults operate under the comforting assumption that as long as a jar is clearly labeled as peanut butter on a standard supermarket shelf, the contents inside must be uniform and inherently healthy. From your perspective, grabbing the most familiar commercial brand, or the one with the lowest price tag, is a perfectly safe, economical decision. From a clinical perspective, however, the modern food industry has systematically transformed this traditional whole food staple into a highly processed vehicle for cheap, inflammatory additives. To illustrate the hidden dangers of this oversight, consider the case of a patient of mine named Arthur, a 71-year-old retired high school principal who had been managing mild type 2 diabetes for several years. Arthur heard about the benefits of a nighttime snack and began eating 2 tablespoons of a standard, mass-market peanut butter before bed. Within 2 weeks, his fasting morning blood glucose numbers, which had previously been tightly controlled, began climbing into a concerning, elevated range. He was deeply frustrated, assuming his body was simply rejecting the strategy entirely. When we closely examined the nutrition label of his chosen jar, the culprit was instantly obvious. His brand was heavily loaded with added sugars and hydrogenated vegetable oils, engineered fats designed solely to extend shelf life and prevent natural oil separation. Once we switched Arthur to a truly natural variety containing exactly 2 ingredients, peanuts and a pinch of salt, his morning blood sugar stabilized back to his healthy baseline within days. The underlying biochemical reality is that your body recognizes the difference between pure plant nutrients and chemically altered lipids. Industrial hydrogenated oils and hidden sugars trigger systemic inflammation and actively interfere with insulin sensitivity at the cellular level. The potential health benefits always belong exclusively to the peanuts themselves, not necessarily to everything added after them. True, natural peanut butter will often have a layer of oil floating at the top because it lacks chemical stabilizers. Embracing that minor inconvenience is how you ensure you are feeding your body a clean, restorative medicine rather than a toxic factory blend. Number 1. The amount matters more than most people realize. We have arrived at the absolute climax of our nutritional breakdown, the single most pervasive and structurally deceptive mistake an older adult can commit when managing their nighttime routine: failing to realize that the exact physical amount of peanut butter you consume matters far more than the food itself. When you learn that a specific dietary staple can stabilize your blood sugar, protect your muscles, and supply your nervous system with vital magnesium, a very dangerous health illusion often takes hold. You naturally conclude that if a small amount of peanut butter is clinically beneficial, then a larger, more generous serving must be exponentially healthier. From your perspective, eating directly from the jar is a sign of robust nutrition. From a clinical perspective, however, this logic completely eliminates the therapeutic window of the food. To understand how easily this strategy can backfire, consider the case of a patient of mine named Martha, a 68-year-old retired nurse. Martha was highly disciplined and had switched to a pure, natural brand of peanut butter to help manage her overnight hunger and improve her sleep quality. However, instead of measuring her intake, she simply used a large dinner spoon to scoop out a massive, uncalibrated portion every night before bed. Within 6 weeks, Martha came to my clinic confused and deeply frustrated because she had unexpectedly gained 4 pounds, and her morning digestion felt incredibly heavy and sluggish. When we accurately weighed her typical nightly portion, we discovered she was accidentally consuming nearly 4 tablespoons, adding over 400 extra unbuffered calories to her system right before lying flat for 8 hours. The underlying physiological reality is that the potential health benefits of this routine appear at surprisingly modest, tightly controlled amounts. 1 to 2 level tablespoons provide the exact threshold of protein, magnesium, and healthy fats your body requires for overnight repair, without overloading your digestive tract or exceeding your daily caloric limits. The critical goal is absolutely not about eating more peanut butter. The goal is giving your body just enough to trigger a positive biological response. Once we had Martha strictly limit her serving to 1 measured tablespoon, her weight stabilized, her morning sluggishness vanished, and she retained all the targeted sleep benefits. After 60, the healthiest foods often become less helpful for one simple reason: the portion grows while the benefit doesn't. Managing your health after 60 is no longer about finding a generic way to consume popular health foods. It is about conducting a precise, calculated defense of your changing biological architecture. The micro-decisions you make inside your kitchen and your medicine cabinet right before you close your eyes can either act as a constant source of hidden metabolic stress, or they can serve as the exact structural scaffolding your heart, your brain, and your muscles require to maintain long-term physical independence. By systematically eliminating the behavioral errors and the hidden dietary conflicts we have uncovered today, whether that means stabilizing your overnight blood sugar, protecting your frame from sarcopenia, selecting a pure product free of industrial additives, or strictly measuring your portion sizes, you are giving your system a magnificent margin of safety. You are choosing to work in perfect harmony with your internal chemistry, rather than forcing an older metabolism to constantly fight an uphill battle against overnight nutrient deficits. Success with nighttime nutrition is never an accident of luck or simple genetics. It is the direct mathematical result of the microscopic boundaries, defensive habits, and smart choices you establish every single day. True success is about actively avoiding the tiny, everyday mistakes that can quietly work behind the scenes to completely undermine your hard work. Take absolute control of your cellular health. Look past the comfortable assumptions and give your body the exact environment it needs to age well. I am Dr. Jonathan Reid. Thank you for spending this valuable time with me today. Invest deeply in your health, protect your biological architecture, and I will see you right here in our very next clinical breakdown.